Uh, Cenk has joined the conversation. Good morning, Cenk. Thank you so much for joining us.
Back
For
to the
the-
lightning strike with Mohammed Fahim.
and we are back live on WCPD, folks. And thank you, Cenk, for joining us. It was a great pleasure to meet you at the iftar a couple of it's a week back or so.
Yep. Good to meet you too. Thanks for having me on.
Well, Marie, Cenk is your guest. You're all over now.
All right. Well,
Okay.
good morning.
Take
Good
the
morning,
ball and run.
everyone.
I've got a frog in my throat today.
Well, I hope that frog gets out. That's animal abuse, my friend. Come on. Um, so, um, in any event, this morning, I'm so pleased to have my guest, Uygur, here from TYT Media. I'm going to make him blush a little bit and share a little about Cenk because he has a particularly great background on many news fronts, but this one is so germane to what we're talking about today, the illegal war that's going on with Iran, and now has turned into a regional fit. But let me tell you a little bit about Cenk and why he's so fitting for our discussion this morning. So, as we said, Cenk is the host and founder, actually, of the Young Turks, which is the largest online news show. You can catch it on YouTube and anywhere you consume media online. He's a frequent guest on not just this topic on Middle East matters, but many progressive matters across TV, podcasts, radio. He's always somewhere, I find. And TYT is I want to plug TYT, and this is why they're a colleague of ours where they do especially good work on the three layers down and really get to the heart of the matter. Cenk got his start at MSNBC Live, and then went on to found Young Turks, and we're grateful for that, for him to continue that great work. He, I think, if you find yourself wanting some of the deeper layers and really understanding more investigative work, he and his colleague Anna are really terrific. So, with that, I'm going to welcome Cenk in. So, good morning.
Good morning, Marie.
Glad to have you here. Um, so a little table setting. We know what's going on, right, Cenk? But I want you to give us kind of the real deal. So a quick recap for our listeners. Day 8 of this war, right? Iran has said, oh gosh, we're going to go and step back just a little bit and not keep continuing hitting all of our neighboring countries. But the U.S. has many installations in many countries. So I'm completely skeptical of that. Um, Trump is now vowing more strikes. He's saying that, in fact, he's not against sending ground troops in. Um, and the future leader is really up for grabs right now. They're saying that it may be Khamenei's son, might be somebody else. Um, and their death toll is significant, right? We have 6 service people that have been killed from our military. They're saying that 1,000 or so have been killed by Israeli strikes inside Iran, the 115 school children, the list goes on. So let's just start with the table setting. Give us your overall perspective of why, what, when, where.
Yeah. So there was two questions here when it came to Iran. Were we going to restart a war, and are there going to be boots on the ground? So obviously we restarted it, and it's not a quick lightning strike, if you will. It's long, 4, 5, now maybe 6 weeks is what we're hearing from the administration. Remember, the Iraq War was also supposed to last a couple of weeks, and then it lasted about a decade at
Mhm.
least, and we lost thousands of men there. So obviously, the big red line is ground troops. And so NBC reporting the other night on, I believe it was Friday night, saying that yes, a specific contingent number of troops are going to head to Iran. And that's always how it starts, right? Oh, don't worry, these are a small group of special forces, etc., and they'll be fine. And then, of course, if anything goes wrong there, we'll have to send more guys after them. And if anything goes wrong there, we'll have to send more and more guys after them. And so, look, literally no one in this country wants boots on the ground. I mean, Bill Maher hasn't met a war for Israel that he didn't love. And even last night, as he was cheerleading on this war, he was saying, I mean, but no ground troops, right? And everyone on the right wing is saying, but no ground troops, right? And so here comes the ground troops. And so, look, I'll tell you what the marker is. So we have no interest in this war at all. We've already destroyed their nuclear facilities. We already killed Ayatollah and 48 other top Iranian regime officials. We've already destroyed most of their ballistic missiles and most of their navy. So and besides which their ballistic missiles and their navy couldn't possibly reach us. So the only interest left is specific regime change that Israel wants, and the reason they want regime change is, if we're being honest about it, and that's my job, they want puppet leaders throughout the Middle East. They want their neighbors to be defenseless. They don't want any of them ever helping the Palestinians, and they want puppet leaders across the Middle East that actually work for Israel. And so that's why they're trying to install the Shah. If we go and try to install the Shah for them, it's going to be a nightmare.
So help us understand, Cenk, why Trump thinks he has the ability to install another leader, A, and B, how he would sell that to the American people that it would be a good thing. And then C, why would the Iranians ever take who he suggested?
Yeah. So Trump got this crazy thought in his head from his advisors on purpose, because they want to slowly reel him into not just this war, but apparently many wars, right? So they sold him a bag of goods that everything's going to be like Venezuela. In Venezuela, we did some, I think it's still a terrible idea to go in. Why are we kidnapping foreign leaders? Just like the whole thing is devolving, all international law is devolving. But when you look at it just from a strategic and military point of view, the CIA, for the first time in a long time, apparently did some good legwork, and they got the rest of the Venezuelan regime to basically turn on Maduro and let him get kidnapped, and then they're working with us afterwards. That is very, very unusual. You could almost never do regime change from a distance, remote control regime change. And in this case, they're not really doing regime change. The entire regime stays in place, so all of those guys aren't fighting you. So this is the lesson we learned from Iraq. The de-Baathification didn't work. When you tried to get rid of Saddam's entire regime, they all fought you and they all had guns. So it led to a massive insurgency, right? So now, so in Venezuela, we did it, quote unquote, right by leaving the regime in place, just taking out the top guy, moving the person up. And apparently, like I said, we had a previous deal, right? In Iran, we do not have a previous deal. And if you take out their leader or their top 49 leaders, they're going to give you a new 49 leaders, right? And then another one and another one and another one. So you'd have to take out the whole regime, like the de-Baathification we did in Iraq, and that would take potentially years, because there's over 1 million Iran Revolutionary Guard, and they're all armed, they're all dug in, and when the foreign minister of Iran was asked, "Are you worried about a ground invasion?" he told a shocked American anchor, "Oh no, we're waiting for you. We can't wait for you to come."
Well, to that point, what we keep hearing from experts are the Iranian their objective back to this war is, we just need to wear these guys down. We need to wear down the Americans. That's it, because they can kind of go on forever, because they've got these tiny drones that are super cheap, and they can keep throwing them at America just to screw things up in all of our international sites, as well as, wherever we want to go. And God knows what they can do here. So tell us a little bit about what Iran is perceived to be doing back to us, or what can you project out? What are some of the expectations they will do back to us?
Yeah, so there's a lot that we know, and there's one thing we don't know, right? So we know what the actual objective here is: regime change for Israel, right? So we do know, what Iran has on the ground, which is a lot of men in a country 4 times the size of Iraq, with the same kind of topography as Afghanistan. So you go on the ground and it's a guaranteed nightmare, guaranteed. Okay. So now, in terms of their military capabilities, otherwise, To your point, Marie, their drones cost $35,000. Our interceptors to knock them down cost between $500,000 to $4 million. So you do the math on that. But there's a second math that's even more important. Even if you wanted to spend all that money, and apparently we do, we're spending $1 to $2 billion a day in this war. Okay. Again, sorry for if it offends you, but it's definitely 100% for Israel, right? I'm saying to the audience out there who might be uninitiated about how degree to which our government is controlled by a foreign government. But even so, we're going to literally run out of missiles. And so I've now heard that the Iranians are using decoys just to get the US and Israel to waste their interceptor missiles.
Yeah.
And so how many drones do they have? They have 80 to 100,000 drones. So is there a moment where we run out of interceptor missiles and our ships are vulnerable? Well, we're all worried about that. And if that happens, there's only two options. One is we leave them there vulnerable, and then we lose a ship and we're in a rage, right? Or we pull the ships out. And hey, Israel, good luck to you.
Before we let you go, I'm fascinated by one more question. Do you think part and parcel to Netanyahu's goal to have more power, more land, because that's what this is a power grab, let's all be clear. You described it as installing all of the puppet governments all over the place. Agree. Is it also a physical land grab? Does he think he can annex other areas out of this beyond Gaza?
Yeah. Yes. So there is a Greater Israel Project. They almost everyone in the Israeli government has talked about it and said we're trying for it. And so the only people the Israeli press talks about it all the time. The only people who don't talk about it is American media. Greater Israel is almost the entire Middle East. So are they trying to take Iran here? No, they're not going to go all the way to Iran right now. But the reason that they want to take out the Iranian regime, because they don't want the Iranians helping Hamas or Hezbollah, call those proxy groups. What are they proxy groups for? They're fighting against the occupation of West Bank and Gaza Strip. I know you're not allowed to, only the Israelis have a right to self-defense. No one else does. And they literally say that, right? But so they've already taken 53% of Gaza. By the way, also Israel has a right to exist, but Palestine doesn't have a right to exist. And they voted to say the Palestinians will never be allowed to have their own state, and they'll have to live under Israeli rule for the rest of their lives. So this is, let's be honest, is a sick fascist government. And they 58 years, they've brutalized those poor people, millions of people. Mm-hmm. So Greater Israel not only includes all of West Bank and Gaza, and right now they're trying to annex the entire West Bank, and they've taken half of Gaza, but they already had an invasion plan for Lebanon as soon as the war started. So the minute Hezbollah fired one rocket that landed in an empty field, they said, that's it, clear out 200,000 to 300,000 people in southern Lebanon. We're going to come and occupy it. Right. So now they take a chunk of Lebanon. They're also in western Syria. Our press never talks about this. So they're occupying western Syria as well. That's part of the reason Bashar al-Assad fell. Mm-hmm. So their empire grows and grows and grows while they continue to pretend to be doing self-defense. And then lastly, Marie, if they're going to do this to try to knock out any defense for the Lebanese, the Palestinians, the Syrians, as they expand their territory and install nothing but puppets throughout the Middle East, why don't they do it with their own ground troops? Right. But right away, the minute we start talking about ground troops, they're like, nope, we're going to send the Americans in to die. Right. And I didn't know the Iraq War was for Israel back in the day. I opposed it anyway, of course, because it was a disastrous war, but we lost 3,500 men, I believe there. We had tens of thousands injured. Why don't they fight their own war? I mean, I think it's a terrible idea to begin with, but if you think it's such a great idea to send in ground troops, send in your own ground troops. Why do Americans have to die for you? And I would ask, everybody watching and listening right now, who's the last American to die for Israel? And how many Americans are we going to tolerate dying in this war that we have absolutely no interest in? And I keep saying finally, but it's so maddening because to your point earlier about Trump, He never even made a case for this war. He's not going to make a case
No
for
idea.
ground troops. He's just going to do it. And so it's going to end in disaster.
It is frightening. The one lever of control we have, and likely, Cenk, you know what I'm going to say, is that folks, and to all our listeners out there, and tell all your friends, is that we have one lever left. He is asking, the war is costing $1 to $2 billion a day. He's asking for an additional 50 billion. We can control that. So don't let him have it. Call your senators right now, particularly senators, Congress people as well, but particularly senators saying we will not allow for $50 billion go towards our folks being killed. So call your senators, folks. Cenk, will you come back, sir? We'd love to hear from you again.
Well,
That'd be great.
Okay,
there's
well, thank
so
you so
much
much
more
for
to
coming
talk
and
about.
imparting all the good things. So back
Marie,
to you, Mohammed.
there's so much more to talk about.
I know.
Reed has been, chomping at the bit. He wanted to say hello to Cenk and also have a question for him. And again, Cenk, thank you so much for joining us at such short notice. Reed?
No problem at all, guys. And Marie, thank you for saying that. Everybody reach out to their senators because the Democrats are wobbly. They say they're against the war, but then they
Always.
say they might fund it. Do not fund this war. Do not get Americans killed for no reason.
Well said. Thank you, my friend.
Thank
Back
you.
to you, Mohammed.
Yeah, and this morning I was also listening, Cenk, to about a 14-minute phone call that our president had with the leader of Canada now, asking him to resign, saying that, okay.
Such
Okay, all right. Duly noted.
insane, insane.
Okay, it's insane. It's insane, and he is insane. And again,
I
Reed,
mean,
have you got any question for Cenk? I know that you wanted to talk to him.
Well, I certainly did. Brother Cenk, I'm so glad to meet you online. Been watching you for like over 2 decades now. I feel like I know you already. You just concern me when you go on your rants. I'm always concerned about your blood pressure. So I just want to call in and say, hey, please cool. I agree with your brother, but please calm down because I want you to be around for another 20. But you've already talked about the Middle East and said the stuff that I want to say on the air about Israel in particular. So I just want to kind of go over overall philosophy because I think our listening audience needs some clarification about certain political terms. And I was wondering if you could just run down for me your description as to what you mean by progressive.
oh, interesting. Yeah. So, real quick, my blood pressure is near perfect. I'm really
You let it
lucky.
all out.
Yeah, I've got a good heart. So, literally in terms of health. So, if somebody says I died of a heart attack, it probably wasn't a heart attack. Okay. So, all right. Now, in terms of progressive, look, there's a lot of ways to define it. I define it in my book, Justice is Coming, and I think it's about expanding the circle of liberty and bringing it to more and more people. So, for example, of course, Martin Luther King was an incredible progressive because he expanded rights to more and more people. Women's rights movement, the right to get the vote, as progressive as it gets, and we look for justice. And so and I'd like to think, and we often are, and we're supposed to be open-minded and open-hearted. And that means you're trying to do good in the world, trying to bring positive change into the world, and you're open-minded about how to do that.
All right. Good definition. Real quick, populism. This is sort of like a pop quiz for you. How do you contrast that with populism? Or do they overlap?
Populism is for the average guy. So it's in direct opposition to the establishment. And so the establishment has got all the things that we know about. Mainstream media would say the wonderful status quo that we have. And the rest of the country would say, oh my God, the corrupt, horrible status quo that we have. And populism fights against that. Now, you can fight against that from the right or the left.
Yeah.
And so there's a populist right and a populist left, whereas progressive is on the political spectrum, which is a little bit different. Progressive is on the left hand of the political spectrum, whereas populism is a completely different spectrum altogether. It's populist versus establishment. There's tons of establishment Democrats. And so I'm on the populist side and the progressive side.
Well, thank you so much. And Reed, we are running out of time with Cenk.
All right.
We got congressional candidate Byron Sikcho Lopez joining us shortly. And Marie, thank you so much again for bringing in Cenk at such short notice. And anytime that you want to, sir, you are more than welcome on the Lightning Strike.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And let's go to